Time will take a little bit of the people inside evil. Sad times, a needle is an eagle minus wings. Living so illegal by strings. Puppet masters of high class, low caste scum. Single mums looking for the food. Handguns to the mood. Shattered and abused. Single words paint rooms with the fashion to protrude.
Hi, welcome back to Scentuality. I'd just like to apologise in advance for the sound if it isn't up to the normal standard. This is because I'm moving at the moment. I've already had to take down my acoustic panels from the ceiling, and in this room the ceiling really does cause some problems in terms of sound, despite the fact that I have acoustic panels all the way around the room on the walls. So I'd just like to apologise for that if there is a noticeable difference. So today I am just showcasing a few perfume formulas where I have used a pre-made accord, in this case purchased from the Perfumers World. I have chosen their leather fluorescence, their saffron fluorescence, their mushroom fluorescence, and their seaweed fluorescence. And I just really want to show that basically if you take a pre-made accord, which is basically base notes, heart notes, top notes, and together they make the smell of something specific like a flower, for instance, and I'm just going to add a base to them. And when I say a base, I mean I'm going to add some fixatives, I'm going to add some blenders, in some cases some oils which are diffusive, and in one or two cases some modifiers, but basically for each perfume all I've done is I've added a little bit of a musk accord, I've added Iso E Super, and I've added Hedione, and then you know, looking at it on an individual basis with each perfume, I've added a couple of other things to each of the perfumes, but I haven't done anything really complicated, and everything smells like the pre-made accord. So without further ado, let's begin with the first formula. So I'm just going to start with the seaweed, well, let's just call it a marine perfume. So what I did was I added 7 drops of the marine accord, the Seaweed Fleuressence. I added 1 drop of isomuscone, 3 drops of tonalide, and 2 drops of oxaltalide pendidecanolide, and that's basically my musk combo. I added 4 drops of oak moss, 4 drops of Hedione. I added 6 drops of Cephalus. Now this was basically the only reason why I added Cephalus was because I had run out of Iso E Super, and in all the other perfumes I used Iso E Super, but Cephalus and Iso E Super, they're very similar molecules. I would say that Cephalus is a little bit more, nearer Sylvamber than Iso E Super is. I think it's a little bit more woody. I would say Iso E Super is probably a little bit more transparent, but anyway, I used 6 drops of Cephalus, I used 3 drops of Lyral, I used 2 drops of Elemi, I used 3 drops of diethyl malonate, 2 drops of Davana, 4 drops of methyl Laitone, 2 drops of Lilial, 2 drops of Verdox, and 1 drop of ethyl saffronate. So what we have there is we have that marine accord in there, so it has that marine vibe, but it's also got the coconut from the ethyl Laitone. It's got that milkiness to it from that molecule. It's also got a slightly fruity heart, and it's got basically the top is green apple, with the Verdox and the ethyl saffronate, and the Lilial just adds a little bit of elegance to it, and it's a really nice perfume. I would probably say, I've got some sprayed on my arm, that it's possibly more feminine than it is masculine, but it works nicely. It's it really I succeeded in doing what I was set out to do. So it's basically just taking that seaweed accord, making sure that that seaweed accord is there throughout the whole perfume, but just adding some supports to that accord, and basically all I've done is added a little musk accord and Iso E Super and Hedione. Now, if you want to make this perfume or any of the other perfumes more transparent, you would just add more hedione. I think that Iso Super and hedione are great blenders. They're also diffusive, but they don't really add to the smell of the perfume at all. They're very transparent in their smell. It's, you know, they affect more the behavior of the perfume. So, you know, just going forward, like, in any kind of a situation, like you want to use a blender, you want something that's also a fixative, like Iso Super, or you know, you want something which adds transparency, then, you know, Iso Super, hedione, you know, fantastic to use. I always, you know, like using musk in combination with those two things, because I think it just helps create well, I think a little bit of powderiness is good in any perfume, because it kind of everything else just sits inside of it. So that's basically my idea behind that whole structure of using musk, Iso Super, and hedione. Yeah, and the other little things are just little accents, you know, to the heart, to the top, but I'm not adding great quantities here, so it's definitely just, you know, resting on that Seaweed Fluorescence. So that was that perfume. Now we'll move on to the Mushroom Fluorescence, the mushroom perfume. Now this mushroom perfume, it's definitely, well, I'll talk about the accord first. The accord it definitely has that earthiness in there, the mushroom aspect, but it's a lot more complex than that, and I would say it was quite aquatic. And it works fantastically just as it is for a male fragrance. It's definitely male, and I really enjoyed this one, more so because it's incredibly diffusive. I sprayed some on my I sprayed some underneath my skin, underneath my clothing. I often test perfumes in this way to check for their diffusiveness, because I want to know if the smell comes through my clothing. I also want to know how long it lasts on my skin, so I just tend to do it this way. And this one lasts for days. It's not obnoxious at all. My dilution was more towards an EDT, so it wasn't like I had like 20% oils and the rest ethanol, and it was just so smooth. It was so close to the skin. It stayed on my skin, it stayed on my clothing, it stayed on my skin throughout the entire day, and, you know, a few days later it's still on my clothing. So diffusiveness is really there in this perfume. So yeah, let's talk about that. I first made a couple of different versions of this perfume, and in the first one I kind of wasn't that satisfied with it, and I just wanted to make something that was a little bit more elegant. So I just came up with this formula, which I'm going to share with you now. So basically, in all of my perfume formulas here, I've basically taken 7 drops of the fluorescence, but in this case I just felt like I needed to add a lot more of the mushroom fluorescence to get it to stay the theme of the perfume. So I added 14 drops of the mushroom fluorescence. I added 6 drops of Iso Super, I added 4 drops of hedione, and I added that same musk combination. So we have 1 drop of Iso Muscone, 3 drops of tonalide, and 2 drops of exaltalide pentodecanolide. And then what I did was I added 2 drops of affirmate, I added 5 drops of oak moss, and 1 drop of ethyl saffronate. So if you're not aware, affirmate is it's sort of it's very salty, it's very masculine, but it kind of smells like a salty rock pool. So yeah, I just felt like, you know, I'll experiment here. I'll try a couple of drops of that, and it really works well. And the ethyl saffronate just gives it a nice clean top. You know, ethyl saffronate smells like green apples. It's really fresh, and you know, it's the kind of thing that I associate with a fresh breeze. So yeah, I really like that in this perfume, and it really works well. It's really smooth, it's really linear. The mushroom accord is just there constantly, never goes away. And as I say, this stuff just stays on your clothing. It stays on your skin for hours. It's not obnoxious. It's very close to the skin, and I just love it. I really do. Moving on to the next one, and we'll do the leather perfume. So when I began with the leather perfume, I really wanted just to add the bare minimum. So you're talking about that musk combination, Hedione, ISO Super. I think in my first formulation, I added some ethyl saffronate, some isobutyl quinoline, and it just didn't really work well. I mean, I love the accord itself. It's phenomenal. It's smooth. And if you love castoreum, you'll really love this accord. It's like a really clean version of castoreum, but that's sort of how I feel about it, smelling it out of the bottle. But once I started to blend it into a perfume, I added it to the ethanol, I sprayed it on my skin. I didn't like how it smelled on my skin. The accord itself is smooth, but I don't know, on my skin it had some roughness to it, and it was also, I just wished it was softer, a little bit more transparent. So I went back to the drawing board, and what I did is I basically, I added 7 drops of the leather fluorescence. I added the 6 drops of ISO Super, 4 drops of Hedione, and I added that musk combination, 1 drop ISO muscone, 3 drops tonalide, 2 drops exaltalide pendecanalide, 4 drops of oak moss. I added 3 drops of lilial, 3 drops of linalool based basil. I added 1 drop of allyl amyl glycolate, 1 drop of dihydromercenol, 1 drop of cardamom. I added 4 drops of coumarin, 4 drops of ambroxide. I added 2 drops of linalool and 2 drops of pink grapefruit. And I also added 3 drops of ethyl vanillin, and it smells divine. It's like amazing. It's so soft, it's sexy. It's like leather inside of a cloud. That's the best way that I could describe it. It's just a phenomenal perfume. And yeah, I mean, if you could make your own leather accord. There's lots of information out there about making a leather accord, but this is just a phenomenal pre-made accord. So if it gets you into perfumery, then why not? Just take a base that you really love, add a little bit of musk, ISO Super, Hedione, and I guess it comes with experience when you're trying to soften something up or make it more transparent, But what I often find is if you smell, if you know the materials that you have quite well and you smell the accord, sometimes you get a sense of what is in that accord, and that gives you ideas about what to put with it. And if you're making the accord the star of the show, then you're really just adding trace amounts of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. In this case, I really wanted to change the behavior of the perfume. I wanted to change the texture, and I wanted the leather to sit inside of a cloud of other things. In this case, it's really the musk and the ethyl vanillin in combination with each other that really achieved this. But yeah, it's a fantastic perfume. It's really delightful. It's super sexy, super soft. It's elegant, very, very elegant. Now let's move on to the final perfume, which is the Saffron Perfume. Now this is probably the simplest perfume, because really all I did was I kept that same musk combination, 6 drops of ISO Super, 4 drops of Hedione, the 7 drops of the Saffron Fleurescence, and the only thing I added to it was just 1 drop of undercavitol, just to give it this green violet top, and it just works beautifully. Again, this was more towards an EDT, so somewhere around 15-16%, as were all of the other perfumes, and they smell phenomenal. They're very elegant, and they're very they're not obtrusive, you know, they're very delightful to smell. And this Saffron Fluorescence is another fantastic pre-made accord from the Perfumers World. And it's, as I say, it's delightful. It's really, really beautiful. It really, really works. It stays on the skin for hours, and it's a fantastic little perfume. So, just in a nutshell, just to basically just to say it again, you want it, if you take a pre-made base, if the base is constructed well and it covers the base, the heart, and the top of a perfume, and you add some musk to that, and also some Iso E Super, some Hedione. They're probably the only blenders you'll need, but you know what I also did was just add, if I wanted the accord to sit in a sort of a cloud, I added some powdery oils. You know, if you want, you could also use less of the base if it's too strong. You could make it more transparent in another way just by adding more Hedione. If you wanted to blend things together more, you could just add more Iso E Super. You know, Iso E Super is a blender, it's diffusive, it's a fixative. The same goes for Hedione, and musks, you know, tend to be fixative blenders, and they're also diffusive. So it's a great way to you know, make that pre-made accord into a full perfume. So that's basically what I wanted to showcase today. I think I'll just go through some more accords and just make perfumes out of them. I actually found it very, very fun, and as I say, there are just some pre-made bases, pre-made accords that are just delightful, like the leather one from Perfumers World. I really love the saffron one as well, and just having perfumes that just smell like those things is really great, you know. They're like two of my favorite smells anyway. So yeah, it's really fun. If you're just getting into perfumery, it's a really good place to start, to be honest, because not only do you you know, simplify things, the pre-made accord is already there, but you do also get a sense of how to make a saffron accord, how to make a leather accord, just by smelling that accord. And sometimes, not with the Perfumers World, but they do list on the bottle a bunch of molecules that are in there. I'm not sure if, I think that's more to do with making you aware of the things that you might have some kind of reaction to, because I don't believe they add everything that's in the accord, but you know, you get some information from there. So I do really find them helpful, and obviously they're also inspirational. So that's all for today. I'll be back shortly with another one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making these perfumes, and I can't wait to make some more. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.